All right. So, welcome back, everyone, to episode 5 of the Daily Wise Cipher podcast. I am here with my fellow colleagues, Anya, Starlight, and Moss. And we are
Hi
also.
everyone.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead and say hello. Go ahead.
No, I'm just tired.
No worries.
Sorry, I didn't realize.
No worries at all.
Yeah, I'm I'm done. Sorry.
No worries. You're good. You're totally good. Um, oh my. I just realized my music is not playing for some reason. There we go. I was like, oh, what's going on? But anyways, yeah, we are also joined today with Leona and Raf in the chat section. So hello. Good morning. I'm just saying good morning from my end. Good. I should probably say that quote. What was that quote by Sylvia again? Good morning, or should I say good evening to you, Agent Twilight? Right?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so glad I still remember it. I use it all the time for the announcement, but for some reason, like when I'm put on the spot, I'm like, I don't even remember what it is. It happens a lot to me. But anyways, we are going to be continuing our analysis of the chapter 1 manga. And we're relatively at a good pacing, because I think we only have like 20 pages left for chapter 1. That's almost the end. Okay, let me see if I actually have the window opened. Perfect. All right, it's open now. So hopefully everyone can see this. So Anya's saying, I just want to let you guys know that there are 2 joining me too. Oh, there are. Aw, you're 2 kitties. Cute. I love that. Watch, Anya, watch out. They're gonna jump on you when you least expect it. Maybe they're gonna close your window like last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
I'm expecting that. It's just good entertainment. Anything with cats, that's just funny. I love that. All right, so we are on page 54 in terms of Canva. And if I recall, Lloyd or Twilight just basically disguised himself as Nguyen and helped Anya escape. So we talked about here that Anya is shivering, and Twilight is saying, "Oh, so that's why I hate the sound of kids crying so much." So we have that realization why I hate the sound of kids crying. And it's because he's just basically realized his trauma and stuff. You know what? I think it would be so interesting if we could just say, could this possibly be a foreshadow of his job, being a psychologist?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Because like I feel like when I read this, I was like, oh my god, we're gonna go in a direction that I really like, which is let's talk about our problems as adults and just see our traumas and then learn how to heal from them and stuff. I love that topic. I don't know, it just came from Fruits Basket for me, and from that point on it was just like, oh, if anything is touching on psychology, sign me up. I'm on board for this. Get me in on this. But anyways, we have baby Twilight or Redacted. You're saying because it dredges up memories of my own childhood. Okay, so Moss, I see that you highlighted memories. Why?
So, memories is often a positive thing. Like when you think back to like a negative thing, you'll usually just word it as like, oh, I'll think back on trauma, or you'll specify that it's a negative thing. Like you'll be like, oh, on bad memories. So it kind of stands out in a way of the fact that he's bringing up like dredging up the memories, suggesting that there are positive ones that he does think about, not just these negative ones, even though obviously at this point in the art you can see that it's the trauma. I just thought it was something to like think about, of we might see some positivity later on. It's not just a negative thing, even though obviously in the image it looks like the end of the world, but it might not have been.
Yes. And actually that's actually a really good analysis, Moss, because when you think about it, we do get to see Redacted in Lloyd having a dream of Redacted, his dream in the past. And we know later, because this background is so traumatic to look at, of course. It screams a lot. You can see there's a dead body over here. There's a tank, and there's an abandoned car, and the building itself in the background. it feels very what's the word for? I was gonna say like zombie apocalypse kind of feel. But also if you think about it, like you mentioned memories being also a positive connotation. Twilight was in the middle of a family festival, right, in his homeland, and then the bomb dropped all of a sudden. So it's actually very good analysis that you mentioned there. So in the future, we get to see like the fact that Twilight was having like a very fun like celebration in his city, and then compare that and contrast that dichotomy with like how it looks in this initial memory of his versus going off into more details of that. It's just like, oh, interesting. The revisitation is actually more dark than we see, you know? Very interesting. So I really like your take on that. So moving down, we have alone and in despair with no one offering to save me, feeling so powerless that the only thing I could do was cry. So we could see here that, what was her name? I keep saying Rena. So Rena is responsible for the characters I was gonna say, fonting. So we don't see Rena until or like they give the credit to Rena, who is lettering basically, and she's responsible for highlighting words and like using the text. So she's very brilliant in how she's using lettering to show that. And then I believe Casey Lowe is the English translator. And I wanted to point out here that I really like that they're tying back to remember what we said about the rule of three with Lloyd, or Twilight, when he mentions crying and stuff. And he said here, this is the third time he says cry, I believe. Or actually, this is the fourth time. Am I wrong? I can't remember how many times he said cry. Because he mentioned or implied crying was one thing, but this is actually the third time, I believe. The actual third time he says cry. And this is a rule of three. And then I notice here the word despair. Why did you underline or highlight that, Moss?
So I literally just rapid Googled it, and just to find a definition, because despair is such a strong word, but I couldn't really put a fingerprint on why it was. So according to Google, from the Oxford Dictionary, it's the complete loss or absence of hope, which just completely mimics the image in the panel above. Like, it's a complete loss of everything. So here he's just kind of highlighting that he had absolutely nothing. So it kind of emphasizes his previous point in the words to the left of the only thing he could do was cry. Because that was it. That was all that was left, was his emotion. Everything else was gone.
Yes, I agree. And he has such a very negative view towards crying, because it just makes, again, crying to him, cry equals hopelessness, right? Because no one was there to, again, he even highlighted here, with no one offering to save me. He wants to be saved, you know? So I feel like the fact that they highlighted this too, it just goes to show something that's kind of deep that just resonates with me. Adults, as our adult self, we end up becoming who we needed as children. So if you think about it, Twilight became one of the best disguises, or one of the best agents with disguising himself, because he often played the hero for not only for himself but for his agency too, when you think about it. So we often become what we needed when we were young, and I was like, oh damn, that's so deep. Here I noticed as well that Anya circled, thing I could do was cry. Why did you circle that, Anya?
I think it echoes back to page 37 on Canva, when he complained to Frankie that crying is the solution to everything. And I think this is the moment he realized what he's been thinking is wrong, because like Moss said about his despair.
Yeah.
I think because there's no solutions, and now he finally understands that because there is a lack of solution.
Yes.
That's why there's the crying. Crying is not the solution. It's more like a response.
Yeah, absolutely.
That this reminded her.
Yeah, that's right. And actually Raph pulled it up for us in the chat. So he was saying this is what Anya's mentioning, and Twilight was saying, I just cannot fathom the way children think. Crying is their solution to everything. It's utterly infuriating. They're kids, Twilight. Crying is their job. And then comparison and contrast here to this chapter that, you know, with crying, it's because he associates it to himself when he was younger, like you mentioned as well. So he does feel very angry about the fact that, you know, when he hears children cry, it's just like a trigger for him to remember that he was hopeless himself, and all kids can really do is just cry for the most part, right? So, anything else to add before we move on?
Not from me.
Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go to page 55 then. I thought I'd put the past behind me, but on a subconscious level, it's been there this whole time. I have this all backwards, you know? Another thing, I think it's really brilliant that we keep seeing a lot of things that are still being carried over to Spy Family, because we have something here. I thought I'd put the past behind me, but on a subconscious level, it's been there this whole time. And as we all know, in the current chapters of Spy Family, we are going through a visitation of the past quite frequently. Like, it's very important. We had the Martha Anderson arc, right? We went back to the past. We also had a discussion with Melinda and her past as well. So the past will always be revisited. So it's very interesting that there is relevancy that's already being pointed out here in the manga. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I've never seen this deep involvement or revisitation of chapter 1 staying relevant, because I would always think, like, you know, since it is the pilot chapter, there would be details that would be omitted or forgotten, but we keep coming back to them, which is actually so cool to see here. And then Anya, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I think it also echoes another panel where he threw away his stuffs as Robert in page 13 on Canva.
Oh, the one with the trash can, right?
Because, yes, and he talked about how he threw everything, threw his past and etc. into the rubbish bin the day he became a spy, right?
Right. So we're gonna jump over to that page.
And actually, I think this is a callback to that. Like, he had also threw away this yeah, it's kind of like he's kind of like gathering back the things he threw away and see that in this child.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying. So it's interesting because when you point out page 13, I'm looking at how he threw everything away. Remember, he burnt them. Like, there was no reset button, essentially, was the visual imagery there, is that he threw everything away. And then, because of that, it gave this sense of permanency when I see that, you know? Like, when you burn something, it becomes ashes, you know? You can't bring that back anymore, it's gone. But just like what you mentioned, how is it that memories, like this little girl, Anya, was able to bring back the things that he burned, you know? Very interesting. I actually really like that. That's pretty cool. And also, welcome, Emmy. Good to see you. I'm also gonna scroll back down on the page we left behind here. Yeah, I have this all backwards. And also, now that you mention it, we said on page 13 that he was in an alley, right? We got a dark room going on here, visually speaking. I really love it whenever the words match the illustration. So, in this case, we see Lloyd, or Twilight, or Redacted. He's by himself, right? But he's not himself. He's a different person. I feel like there's a huge illusion there, you know? Like, symbolism right there. Damn, this entire scene is symbolic. I did not realize that. And notice it says, I know in realistic terms, they were trying to escape, but I like the fact that there's an exit on top because, you know, he's trying to escape that life in a sense. He's disguised as someone else, just like touching on like what you mentioned. It's a callback to page 13. He threw everything away as Redacted. He became Twilight. And also, oh my god, you guys are just popping off there. I love it. I see Anya has highlighted Anya, or circled Anya, and I see Moss putting exit on the top, pointing at Anya. Okay. I want to pass the floor to Moss. Moss, why did you want to underline and point it at Anya? I want to hear your guys'
I want to piggyback off of your point just then, of the fact like it's very symbolic.
Yeah.
Notice how it's them two leaving. They're starting something together. It's very much the opposite
Oh my god, yes.
coming into play.
Yes.
They're starting something, they're leaving together. Like, it's a whole... It's a very good way of just kind of pushing imagery forward and being like, they are kind of in it together now.
Yes,
Like,
oh my god.
this is it. This is their story. This is a good way of kind of suggesting using the pilot chapters to just be like, this is what's going to happen. They're going to start as one thing, because obviously they met as Anya and Lloyd, Mr. Forger, but they're now leaving as Anya and someone else. So it's a very thought-provoking thing of maybe they are going to leave as Anya and something else. Maybe Lloyd is going to let himself be redacted, you know?
Yeah. Wow. Yes, I agree. And I don't know if you guys could interact with the emotions, because I think we have a soundboard here. If you ever, if it works, hopefully it does, we can always like interact that way too. I'm curious about that. But anyways, like what you mentioned, yes, I agree. And I was so excited because I wanted to say it, but I'm like, no, I want to give it to you because I think you're gonna cook something, you know? I was, yes, and even Leona was like saying yes, Moss, clapping in the chat. Yeah, I agree. It's so symbolic, and I hate that I did not notice this the first time I read it. It went over my head. Okay, that's why we're having a chapter 1 revisit, because oh my god, when we look back at it, and then all of us are all here, everyone in the chat too, you're all always welcome to pitch in what you see or also hear, and also we'll read your comments out loud too. Just like earlier, sorry, I misread what Leona was saying. She said something of, oof, he was forced to lose his emotions when he was a child on his own, right, for survival. But here we have, I want to bring that up to what Leona said too. Lloyd was basically emotionless. He was a blank slate. It was for his preservation and survival. But with Anya, she's resurfacing his emotions. She's connecting him back to being more of himself. So it's like, it's almost like that feeling when you plug something into a wall. Once you plug something in, an electronic device, if you will, it'll turn on, right? It's kind of like the way I see Twilight's emotions, that when you plug it into a wall, it's like he's back to being human again, in a sense, because of Anya. But when he was a spy without her, it's like he unplugged himself. He didn't allow himself to be human anymore. It doesn't allow him to grow, and on that sense. And I also wanted to see Anya. What else did you want to say? Because I noticed you circled a text, you circled his shadow. What else did you want to mention here?
I think do you remember the ending of the ED of season 1 part 2, where they opened the door and they walked into a light? This is actually the same thing. They
Oh my
walk
god!
to a door and into the light, and they leave the shadow behind Twilight. And it's a huge shadow, isn't it? And we talked about how spies are shadows. And
Oh my
also, but
god.
this shadow is also his traumatic past. So I think this is something that is, especially when everything is dark, but they are in the light
Yes,
with
I
the
agree
huge
with you.
shadow behind them.
Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, why are you so brilliant, girl? I cannot. Like, yes, I agree with you. Ending number 2, if you guys remember. I believe, is it called Colors? What was the name of the ending number 2?
Yes. It's
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, Colors. So basically with Colors, it's just so intriguing to hear that, because oh my god, I can't believe I did not notice this. I am just like shaking. Just like what you mentioned, everyone is going to the light, right? And then the shadows can represent the trauma that hold on to these characters. And it's just amazing. So amazing that you picked that up. But yeah, this scene. Who knew something that is so passing like this is so symbolic? But then again, it makes sense, because anytime, now I understand from Endo's side that anytime he highlights or he zooms in a particular scene in a manga, he's highlighting something for us. Like, there's something there that he wants to point out. And that's something I noticed in like chapter 100, I think 110 or 109. So now to see it again in chapter 1, oh my god, we missed a genius. Oh, like lord. I'm going crazy over this. So thank God to you I can't even talk. See how crazy I'm like so like I'm so shook I can't even speak anymore. But yeah, thank God for you guys. Y'all, I'm so blessed. I'm blessed to just be surrounded by geniuses and intellectual people here in the server. But also I wanted to add here, oh, Raf says, not sure where the shadow parts are there, but these come from to mind. Yes, that's exactly it. Yes. So Raf has kindly showed screenshots of ED2 colors. And we can see like Lloyd when he's laying on the couch when he sees a light. We can see all three of them when they open the door. There's a light behind. I think in terms of the symbolism for shadow just comes from the manga itself, but the ending number 2 is indicating how they're all going to the light together. It's very interesting. And I really love that they pursue that. I don't know, I really like ending number 2 in terms of the symbolism with the light, because we get to see each character and how they respond to them. But that we can say that for another spin-off. Yeah, but before the light, it's all shadow, just like what Raph said. You can see Twilight's just sleeping on the couch after a hard day's work in a mission or something. Exactly. So going back to the manga, we can see that Twilight has gently plopped Anya on the floor. And he says, "Listen, little girl." And Anya says, "It's Anya." Okay, listen, Anya. Okay, I'm curious. Anya, why did you circle this?
Remember that's the first time they introduced themselves to each other. It's
Yes.
the exact same dialogue.
Uh-huh.
Like when Twilight asked her to call him Otosama,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And this is a new reintroduction, because you can see we have discussed it before. Like Twilight has been using all the spy words, the intellectual words. He's in mission at the time, but this time after this dialogue, he's using a different language. He's using Anya's language, or the thing he knows about Anya. Anya likes playing tech.
Yes.
So he's using the playing tech language instead of spy language. Instead, it's him talking. It's not his mission talking. So it's kind of like a reintroduction between the two.
Wow. I'm just really impressed by that. I like that. Yes, I agree with you that this is like a second opportunity. A parallel was revisited, of course, and man, god dang it, I did not even notice how Endo's actually gonna use a lot of parallelism. I mean, I know now, like much later into the chapter, but it was all obvious here in chapter 1 alone. It showed you everything he was capable of. The symbolism, the emotions, the investment, the parallelism. It's all here. Because the fact that you pointed the scene out where Twilight was acting out as Nguyen in the scene, this really stuck out to me when I first watched it and also first read it. I was like, hey, isn't this the same scene that was kind of like mirroring the first time he met her? I agree with your points there. And I really love that you mentioned that this time that he revisits this parallel, something changes. And that's always how parallelism works in terms of literature. You tend to mirror a previous event, but there's a big change, usually because of a character has grown something or learned something. In this case, like you mentioned, the language choice that Twilight has now adopted more of a informal discourse. Listen, little girl, it's Anya. Okay, listen, Anya. He's acknowledging her, you know. And again, it's convincing in the role of Nguyen. He's performing his job as Nguyen really well, but he is taking more care of her, I would say. He's starting to look at her as, okay, she's a child. Like, I'm not gonna be as cold to her as I was in the beginning, and it's like the relationship, the bond has definitely changed in this moment. Especially with this being a parallel scene from the moment he first adopted her, and I really love that you expanded more on that. So, moving on, we are looking at the next panel. Do you know the game Tag? Me and my friends back there were pro tag players, and I like that you also mentioned, again, he's using language that only Anya understands, and you said it here. by using the word tag. And then they were saying pro tag players. He's starting to make it sound like very kiddish, so he wouldn't scare her. It's giving me, what's that name of that? We talked about this a few episodes ago. The one with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson acting like he's a spy but also a nanny. What was it called again? Do you guys remember that? The Pacifier. Oh yes, yes. Thank you, Leona. The Pacifier. Yeah, he's using kid language. It's giving that movie, The Pacifier. You know, like you got a macho man starting to use like baby language with kids because he's a nanny, of course. It's giving this vibe with Twilight here, acting as Nguyen with Anya. When we see people who look like they're good at tag, we challenge them to a game, which is really funny. When they look like they're good, we challenge them to a game. Again, very innocent, kid-like language. And he's trying to do it in a way not to scare Anya, which is actually quite interesting because I've seen some discourse where, I don't know, adults that really care for the child, they tend to use words that are innocent, you know, like they try to avoid using scary context or conversation. It's kind of giving a little bit of, if you guys watch Squid Game, they use a lot of children games as part of their discourse to avoid scaring the adults with things like for example, the word eliminated. If you are playing red light, green light, if you are caught moving, you are eliminated. They're not using eliminated as a word as to say kill, for example, because that's what happens in Squid Game, but they're using eliminated as thinking, oh, the game, they're out of the game, it's over. It's very innocent, but honestly, it's brilliant too because the ambiguity of English, eliminated could also be used in terms of to off someone, basically. Oh my god. Anyways, going back to this, it's just very interesting again with word choices to see how Twilight is putting a lot of care in what Anya's saying, but of course, we all know Anya is a mind reader, she's a telepath. And she says this for a good few chapters, right? The first 5 chapters. And I don't see her mentioned Papa is a liar from that point on. It's not as repetitive, but it was very obvious in the first few chapters because I think what Endo Sun was trying to reinforce is that we have to remember that the dad is a spy. Spy equals a liar. And very interesting that we see it from a very innocent sense with Anya saying it. So Nguyen was saying, if you go right down the street and turn right, you'll see a police station. Give this to a police officer there and you win the game. And again, he's using very innocent language, but again, why I mentioned Squid Game is because of this. If she goes to the police officer, she wins the game. But if she wins the game, she's turned in back to an orphanage. You see what I'm saying? They're using language to avoid the loss, to avoid giving a negative experience and showing reluctance. So win equals orphanage. She goes back. That's kind of like what I wanted to point out here. And then going here, when they say this, when they see this, they'll put her in a better orphanage. And yeah, just like what I mentioned here. I didn't even read the text up here, so I was definitely just like using context clues from here. And then it's just really nice because now we see win the game, a better orphanage. And I didn't even make that connection, guys. I really love it when this stuff happens. So I noticed you underlined that, Anya. Why?
Yeah. It's because I think he thinks being with him is dangerous.
Yes.
So I think he honestly thinks that being in a better orphanage is a win for Anya.
Yes, I agree with you. That's actually a very good point, yeah. The thing is, with kids, they love excitement, and Anya has been deprived, as we all know. So yeah, just like what you said, Twilight thinks being with her is more dangerous, so it's better to be at an orphanage, but again, Twilight knows, or he sees the danger of his missions and his job, but he doesn't see it from the perspective of Anya, you know? The orphanage is actually worse for her, and that's why we know she came back for him. But here we know that orphanage, he's just seeing it as protection, right? A better orphanage, better protection, better opportunities. That's what he's hoping for.
Yes.
So it's like what you mentioned. Like he's thinking of saving the kid. I guess you could say it this way. It's as if Twilight is healing his younger self by saving him, or saving her, saving Anya. Saving Anya equals healing the trauma of baby redacted. In a sense, he's healing himself. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
He's trying to make sure that she has a better chance at has a better chance in her childhood than he ever got.
Yeah, I agree. Like,
Yes.
I feel like this is the opportunity for him. He felt like, oh, I'm gonna save this kid because no one was there to save me, so I'm gonna save this person. It's a very healing moment, right? This trauma. This is why I was hooked to Spy Family. I was like, damn. Very deep. And then he says, you got that? And Anya says, I'll rework the mission, figure out a way to do it that doesn't involve a kid. And it's so interesting here because, again, now Lloyd, with the knowledge that he got from adopting Anya, he realized Operation Strix, can they do something without having a kid involved? So it's very interesting to see how else would they have tried to solve Operation Strix without Anya's involvement. Because like now I can't think about anything else other than that, other than maybe him being a teacher or something, staff, something like that maybe. But now we get to see that here, we get to see Twilight now cares about a kid. Let's compare this as a callback to when Twilight noticed that Anya was absent or kidnapped. He said there's more kids in the orphanage, right? I don't remember what page this was on Canva. But the fact that he mentioned there are more kids in the orphanage that he could come for to replace Anya, he doesn't look at it that way anymore here. We could see that I'll rework my mission to figure out a way to do that doesn't involve a kid. It's showing that now he cares. So we have character development very quickly in this one chapter alone for Twilight. And I'm gonna put CD for character development. But very quick, we get to see he doesn't want to involve kids anymore because Anya unlocked the memory for him that he just doesn't want kids involved because it makes him feel like maybe he's continuing the war in a sense by putting kids in dangerous situation, like when he was put in a dangerous situation. But in any case, we'll move on to the next page, page 56. And Anya says, Pa. She was about to say Papa. And interesting here was Anya was about to reveal herself. Like, there was a lot of opportunities where Anya almost revealed her psychic abilities in front of her dad, but she got really lucky because Twilight, acting as Newman, says, ready, go. He tells her to go hide. Hurry. And then we see little Anya running away, not fit to be a spy. No, the mistake was endangering that child in the first place. Yes, I agree. And I love that you highlighted this, Moss. Would you like to share what you were thinking of when you highlighted this?
So it's basically him just realizing that actually having a child in this situation at all was a bad thing. And I do think that him thinking about his own childhood kind of made that click into place a little bit.
Yes.
In the fact that obviously he was in a lot of danger as a child. Then he thought back to it, and as you said, he's now no longer like wanting to risk a child at all. At first he considered just changing Anya for a new one, but now it's actually a big deal for him.
Yes, I agree. And let's just also, I wanted to add on to what you're saying. Remember, Redacted is known as a very emotional kid. He cries a lot. He feels a lot. So I don't think he completely erased that side of him. He's still quite sensitive of things. It's just Lloyd always makes up for what he lacks. So for example, I'll share in my case, because I'm also a very emotional person, my emotional side can tend to be a weakness for me, but it can also be a strength. So in that sense, understanding from Twilight's perspective, he's being more logical to make up for the fact that he perceives emotions as a weakness for him. So that's why he's very logical, and the way he presents himself throughout chapter 1 is he's got a very logical mindset. And in this case as well, also what Leona mentioned, and his word sounds more parental. Yeah, like there's investment again. I wrote here trauma, emotional investment with Anya. In a sense, I feel like Anya, I always believed, Anya is the glue of the Forgers. She's really the glue because she gets her parents to unlock emotions that they don't really or haven't faced, or things that they haven't addressed for themselves. Like, especially when they're by themselves, they're used to just ignoring their problems. But here, Anya, in a sense, is forcing them to face that problem. In this case, especially for Lloyd, she basically plugged his emotions back in. The fact that now he cares about children because of the fact that she got herself kidnapped and she started crying. It made him like open his eyes of like why he doesn't like working with kids, or why he feels attachment for Anya is because he now realizes Anya has unlocked, or basically she has kind of synonymously made herself related to his past. So that's why he's attached to her in a sense. I notice here as well that Anya circled that. Why did you circle that word?
Yes, because we were talking about how Twilight attempted to distance himself from Anya by calling her a child, a creature. It's kind of like a very objective way to do it. But now we see the first connection that is shown in his speech, right? Because it's that child. It's from something that is very objective to something that shows that he cares about her, although it's subtle in his translation. And I think this also appears in other versions, in the Japanese version and the Chinese version. That he specifically talked about that child.
Yes, I like that you pointed that out.
In Japanese. Yes. Yeah. I'm just trying to say in Japanese is anoko, and in Chinese is naga, nahaizu. So it has the meaning of that child.
Okay. So very interesting.
I'm trying to say, yeah.
I like that because Moss actually was one who pointed out the objective word, right? Like in the past, he would used to say the child, this child. But here, now he's putting more personal. Like I mentioned here, the becomes more objective because we're putting distance in terms of words. We're thinking about it from a very meta-linguistic stance. But here, now that he's saying the mistake was endangering that child in the first place, there's some growing attachment. And we already see it from the moment he had that interaction already here on page 55 in Canva. The fact that the parallel already was set in stone right here. Listen, little girl, it's Anya. So this interaction alone just goes ahead and shows that there's a new change in their relationship. There's more of a bond established. There's emotions like peeking out from Twilight. He's definitely feeling an investment towards Anya in that sense, and now they're using words that are reflecting that too. So again, just very interesting. I really love all these small nuances that are being picked up, especially Casey Lowe, who's able to show this through English and stick close to Endo-san's original sourcing based on what Anya is disclosing with us. Since we can always say that the JP edition or the JP translation is always the OG, the original source. And of course, sometimes in the English transcription, sometimes it goes off, sometimes they use different words, localization happens, but it's just, I love it when there is consistency with the original source, especially like the word that being used, especially through Japanese as well. I thought that was sore. No, that's this, right?
No, I think because she's already running from him, so it's, I think
distance, yeah.
So it's kind of like next to you, but I know it's kind of like more away from you, like over there.
Okay,
that's the thing, over there. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that is the difference. Yeah.
Got it. So, shoot, what do we call these? Demonstratives. There we go. Demonstratives are this, that, these, those. Literally putting me on my hot seat as an English teacher right now. I was like, what is this grammar? I know this. But yes, the fact that she's running away, it makes sense to say that. Emmy also mentioned from her book, my mistake was putting that girl in danger in Portuguese. Lovely. So yeah, we have a consistency of the using word that's going on here. Moving on, we are going to go to the next panel. we see Nguyen turning his back. He says, "How did I not see that?" And it just goes to show again, how did I not see that? Because Twilight, you turn off your emotions. So the fact that his emotions were off, I'm gonna put emotions. My little tablet hates me. I always have to write slow. Emotions equals off. When his emotions are turned off, he, again, we know earlier that he just sees everyone as a tool. But now that he has his realization, it's like, how did I not see that? It just goes to show he's getting a sense of his reality, or his humanization's coming back slowly. Like, he's starting to feel like he cares. Whereas, being a spy for 20 plus years, I would assume, definitely hardened his soul to really perceive as everyone is indispensable, including his own colleagues as well as himself too. What did you highlight here, Anya? I see in the chat.
Yes. I'm just trying to say, I feel like this could be the biggest character development.
Mm-hmm.
That is not translated, unfortunately, because it's in a filigrana.
Oh, I see.
So this the thing where I highlight, it's I think Yumiko has talked about it, like kids. In the filigrana, it's me. It means me, right?
Right.
When he says making a world where kids don't need to cry. In the Japanese version, there's actually a filigrana next to the kids. It means me, an objective me, and we could see in page 22 in Canva.
Yeah.
There's one panel where next to Tasogale, where I posted in a chat. That next to the Tasogale, it's Ore, right? Like panels ago, I still mean Tasogale, Twilight, right? But then here it's already like he already sees himself in Anya so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good contrast where this self is not related to Twilight. This self is prior to Twilight. It's not completely detached from being a spy, because this is why he became a spy. But this is a self that is purer than Twilight, or the identity Twilight. This is the first glimpse we have of him.
You mean
other than Twilight.
Like redacted, right? Like his true self.
Yes.
You're trying to say, yeah. And just to briefly explain, what is furigana? Like, I know that word has been tossed around in Japanese, but I'm also like I'm a beginner at it, so I'm like, what is furigana? If you could explain what that is.
Furigana is next to the kanji, because to show you how to pronounce the kanji, they would have tiny it's a phonetic notation. Furigana is in fact a phonetic notation, kind of like how to pronounce this kanji.
Oh.
It is basically used to show that, but in manga especially, that it is also shown to it is used to show subtle differences, like the real meaning of the of what the character wants to express. So they just put it next to the kanji and pretend it's a phonetic notation, but it's actually a notation about the real meaning, or the intended meaning of the character that he didn't speak out loud.
Damn it. I wish the English version was able to capture that notation, because I feel like the way you describe it, it kind of feels like a footnote. Don't you think?
Yeah,
In
it's kind of like the hidden true meaning. Like the hidden true meaning of the person.
Oh, I see. Ah, man, I feel so frustrated because, again, like what you mentioned, these are we call this cultural discount in linguistics. Cultural discount means you lose out on a cultural understanding of what you're reading because, like, for example, Casey Lowe is thinking about the English consumption, like the readers are all English readers, that's why they translate it like this. They omitted a lot of text because they are taking into consideration of our culture, the English culture, and simplifying it. But at the cost of that, to make it easy for us to like read it very quickly and move on, we lose out on the nuances. Like, I just feel so mad that we always miss out stuff like that. Yeah, cultural discount sucks. So very interesting that you mentioned furigana is kind of used as an IPA, or footnote would be better, to help people understand how to pronounce the word, but also give more context to why they're saying the word. And in that sense, it's also giving more of an understanding of who the character is. Is that what I understood correctly, Anya? Or am I making a wrong point here?
I think you're right. Like in normal situation, it's used to show how it's pronounced, but in special situation like this, it's used to show the true meaning instead. So instead showing the sound of it, it shows the true the words.
The true meaning of the words, right? Sorry, you cut off for a moment.
The true meaning of, instead of the words they use, what they truly want to say or talk about.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So we have another case of, feels like a soliloquy, right? In a sense, like he's just talking to himself. But yes, that's so interesting. I just, again, one of my, the banes of being a linguist and knowing that there are cultural discounts that happen, and someone who consumes a lot of foreign content, as in like, let's say any Asian shows, anime, Korean drama, there's always going to be moments where we miss out on these small nuances. It's just so annoying. I just wish, I miss the old days where they used to translate Japanese into English. There was no standard for translations back in the day, but now they do, which is really annoying. So we always miss out on some things, which, I hate it when that happens. But anyways, moving on back to page 55, I think, or sorry, 56 in Canva. Making a world where kids don't need to cry, and he rips off his face. That was the whole reason I became a spy in the first place. So we're going back here to page 56. I just read that entire quote. I noticed that you circled this, Anya, and then you also put characters here. I still can't read that. I assume that is kanji, right? I cannot read that.
Yeah.
Okay. So why?
Yeah.
Why did you circle this?
It's actually what the furigana is about. Like, yeah, in the kanji says kodomo, but it actually reads as jibun, which is self. So it's basically what I talked about, what furigana is.
Nice.
How furigana could be used in this situation.
That is so interesting. I really love that. Again, it's just like, I just feel so angry that I don't have access to that. And of course, I'm very excited to see what Raph is going to be typing in the chat. So yeah, guys, if you have an idea, feel free to just pop off. I would love to read what you want to say. But yeah, it's so frustrating that I don't have access to furigana, so I don't understand what's actually going on, and I think I need more practice in that, especially leveling up my Japanese acquisition. But we get to see that connection, so I really like, again, Endo's making that parallelism in terms of speech, discourse. He's referencing the furigana in that page, and it's coming back here to kids, so there's a connection. Interesting. And then we already mentioned here that the whole reason he became a spy, and Anya intercepts this thought, and she's just surprised to see his answer. I became a spy in the first place. So in that moment, I also like to highlight anytime we see Anya's eyes are huge, right? Not in terms of the description, yes, her eyes are big for a child. But what I mean is, ever since chapter 89, I believe, when we saw Anya's name change, her eyes light up when something takes her interest, right? In the state she heard her father's or her adopted dad's thoughts that he became a spy in the first place is to prevent kids from crying. She was very moved by his words and why he became a spy. And Anya's eyes, again, they light up. They finally light up. Like, it's that light bulb moment that I would always call it, that it's the reason why you want to pursue whatever reason that light bulb moment happened. whether it is an interest, whether it is a passion, whether it is a purpose in life. I think in Anya's case, it's a purpose, right? Because Anya's eyes, I don't know if we explored it enough back in the orphanage. I don't know what color her eyes were at that time. Like, I think it's this, I don't know what people call it, artists, help me. The shining thing in their eye, right? The reflection. Just adding this little shiny part in her eye just shows that it's lighting up. I think that's how they did it. I don't exactly know what they're called. But yeah, those little color in the irises tend to show a lot of emotions when they're present versus when they're not there. It makes it look like she's, I don't know, in shock, dull, I don't know. But yeah, she has a sense of purpose in her eyes. Oh, and I love that, Anya, you went ahead and circled my word light and you pointed at Lloyd, because again, we are referencing back to the exit, right? With where Yumi and Moss popped off in terms of symbolism. Her light is her dad, you know, like she really saw, like looking at him, that's the light she's following. It's not just a door, it's her father. And same thing with Lloyd, like this family itself is his light, in a sense. Okay, so really cool moment. I thought this was such a badass moment too when I saw this animated as well. And then we're scrolling down to page 58. Oh, we have a long page here from Raph. You guys already moved on, but going ahead in chapters, but a recent example of double meaning was back in chapter 87. Sylvia specifically calls out Twilight when she tells Fiona not to work for his sake, but the furigana uses hiragana for aitsu, him, instead of usual tasogare for Twilight. Yes, it's very ambiguous. The English translator team tries to achieve the same effect by emphasizing him. Right, they bolded the text, I believe. I think it does work even more so when you know or have the context of the original script, but at a first glance, it can come off a little vague to English readers. Yes, I agree. And I'm really glad that you guys are highlighting this because I'm getting a better understanding of furigana, like a footnote. And again, just like Rina is in charge of lettering, so just like you mentioned, instead of saying tasogare and being more specific of who the person is, they're saying his, you know, they're choosing ambiguity. And it's also shown in how Rina uses lettering. She bolds the word his, and she also italicizes it in order to maintain that original sourcing. I feel like aitsu is more like beeping guy than neutral, but yes. Yes, yeah, that's very true. I feel like aitsu has a connotation, like, I mean, based on my observation and listening to a lot of anime, whenever they say aitsu, I feel like it's a very, very close word of saying him. Very close, and it's very informal. But now that you guys say aitsu, feels like you're saying that effing guy or something. It just goes to show that it's camaraderie, closeness between, of course, Sylvia and Twilight. Definitely you've got the whole sibling, older sister, younger brother kind of vibe between them. So, yeah. In any case, thank you for sharing, Raph. Yeah, it's fine. Even if we move on, keep typing about it because we'll come back. We'll definitely come back. So, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm also going to give you a Stella. If I can give you Stella. Add reaction. Giving him Stella. Thank you. I love it. Going back to page 58 on Canva, we have someone here screaming, "Don't let that bastard get away." Thump, thump, thump. We're gonna drag him out of here and expose his face to the whole twang. And then everything happens here. Just for a brief moment, I just want to point this out because, again, my linguistic dorkiness is coming out. I really love it when they show again, they're showing roles in speech. And how can we know that? Look at the words. We're gonna drag him out of here and expose his face to the whole world. Using very informal English, using like slang especially. It's something I kind of notice across media as well. Whenever they use like, I hate to use this, Black vernacular language, for example, they tend to villainize that language. They say either it's this person is the villain, or they say that this person is, well, in most cases, it's trying to indicate that it's a villain who uses improper English, quote unquote. But just so you know, all English types are okay. They're considered linguistic varieties, English varieties in linguistics. We talk about this all the time. But a lot of the times in terms of movie and cinema, they always try to make the villains look like a certain, a certain role. They have a stigma to them. Here they look like, of course, the way that they're presented, they look like a gang. And then I like that they have text that also indicate that, like using the word gonna and outa, just goes to show that. And of course using profanity, like bastard in here, to just re-indicate again how bad these people are. And we see here that after Twilight has left Anya, he has somehow created a brilliant trap very quickly. I don't know how he does it. That's just so interesting. How did he even set up this crap, guys? Like, he's super mad. I don't know how he does it. But he left some booby traps, and I think it's so brilliant because we get to see later why he decided to use powder in this room. And then going to page 59. Oh wait, I just realized I think I duplicated the page. I'm so sorry. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this in the trash. Oop. Okay, so now we have an updated page 59. We have the gang or the goons are saying, oh my gosh, is this a trap? What is this, flour? And using flour not only as a visual blinding is so brilliant because, again, it hides and protects Twilight's identity. That's one thing. And then the other people here are freaking out because Twilight is already acting. And he's like, oh my god, Twilight. And one of the goons tell him, and we get to see the brilliancy of why using flour is like incredible, because one is to hide the identity, especially in a close space. Flour is very thick. If you've accidentally dropped powder, it does blind your vision. It's quite thick. And second of all, using guns, don't shoot, the whole place will blow. That was actually pretty brilliant when I read this. I was like, oh my god, I did not know flour could still be extended as gunpowder. I was like, okay, that's brilliant. That's so good. Leona, yes, I'd like to read what you mentioned. Nerdy moment. Flour grains are so tiny that they burn instantly. So when one grain burns, it lights other grains near it, and the flame front can flash through the dust cloud with explosive force. Just about any carbohydrate dust, including sugar, pudding mix, fine sawdust, etc., will explode once ignited. Yes, you're exactly who we need, Leona. Just saying, we need you. This is a knowledge I don't have access to, so I'm very happy that we get, the girl. Yes, this is what I want. Also, welcome, Fui. Good to see you.
Hi, Fui.
Yes. Use your knowledge. Yes, that's right. That is why we're having this podcast. It's just like, it's nice to have a conversation with people who know what they're talking about and know their expertise. So, Leona, you're exactly what we're looking for in terms of like giving more understanding of why powder or flour was chosen for this moment. So brilliant. I never knew that. I was just like, when I got to this moment, I was like, god damn, that is so brilliant. I didn't even think about it. So Leona said, not gonna lie, I got that from the web, but I've known it for a while, lol. I didn't know, actually. I thought it was like, I didn't think this through. I didn't realize that flour was sensitive, that it would cause explosion. I just thought it was just like, just gunpowder, I guess. But then again, powder, flour, they are both powders, so it makes sense. But anyways, we have, don't shoot, the whole place will blow. And then next page here. As if I'd let peons like you catch even a glimpse of me. Oh, and he looks like a demon here. Oh my god, yes. We have to talk about this in the future. We have a touch on Redacted's roleplay in the future. We'll talk about this again when that chapter happens. But yes, Moss. Why did you circle and say peons? I actually want to know why you said this.
Okay, so to start with peons, I have never heard of the word before, so I did a little quick Google, as I feel like I've done quite a lot so far.
Yeah.
So this is just like a summary because in different translations, they're slightly different, but they basically mean the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a person that is typically unskilled, low-ranking, and an assistant that has a compulsive need to serve out of indebtedness.
Oh,
So basically, the people that he's fighting at the moment are not the big guy. They're just the goons in a
yeah.
way.
Yes.
And I feel like he's once again trying to show off. Like we've discussed quite a lot in the previous episodes, is his knowledge and like how smart he is. He likes to be the smartest one in the room. This one is again emphasizing this in using language that isn't exactly common, just to mean something that, just to basically point out the fact that he thinks they're unskilled or unintelligent and at the bottom of the food chain type of thing.
Yeah, and I like that you pointed that out, and especially when you looked into peons, I actually forgot to look into it. The first thing I thought to my head was peasants. It's a very demeaning word, especially like just the context without even knowing the word. Peons is supposed to be a derogative word to make fun of them. And again, something to point out, and I really want to branch off of what Moss was saying. The fact that he's saying, as if I'd let peons like you catch even a glimpse of me. The fact that he's using highbrow words, smart words, again, like I mentioned, the comparison in terms of just discourse alone can tell you the good guy is someone who's actually intellectual with his words. Using the word peon is a smart highbrow word. So it's a good person speaking versus a bad guy saying oughta, gonna, improper quote English, showing that they're the villains. You know, like they're reinstating things through language itself. It's very interesting to see that. And then also adding on to what the chat was saying, Leona said, not gonna lie, I got that from the web, but I've known it for a while. Fui says that's why when I was a baker, flour and sugar were kept outside storage area and not in our big kitchen. It brought in when needed in small amounts. Oh, I did not know that. Emmy says, sad that they didn't have that line in an anime. That had been savage. I agree, yeah, this would have been very savage. I don't even remember what Lloyd actually says, or Twilight says in the actual anime. Very interesting. If anyone has
anything,
what does he say?
I thought it was like a silent sequence where it's got music. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I feel like he didn't say anything.
Okay, interesting. Because I actually don't remember it. I haven't watched the first episode in a hot minute. I feel like we should, in the future, we will watch the anime too. Very interesting, and we can talk more about that too. So going back to the flower, I love its duality. It relates to Twilight. He can kill with it, or he can deal with it through his baking, as we see later on. Yes, the fact that he was a trained professional chef in the previous mission. That's actually a really good point. Emmy says peon is piao, I think is the pronunciation. Sorry if I said it wrong. In Portuguese, it's usually informally used to refer to a low-rank kind of worker in the construction work sites, farming, etc. That's why I was thinking, when I thought about this word, I thought of the word peasant. I was like, you peasants. It's really showing, you know, a power, a socio-economic power struggle going on here, just using that word. And very interesting, you said peon and piao, because it looks like that's a cognate. In linguistics, cognates mean like the word looks like and sounds like another word that has the same meaning. Raph said, he was quiet in that scene, lol. Oh, okay, he was quiet. So yeah, I wonder why they decided to branch off from this. Very interesting. Maybe it could be perceived as maybe cringy, maybe cliche, because again, people want to avoid the cliche. Makes sense. It's okay. It's a creative difference. And then Fui says, Spy Family rewatch leading up to season 3. Oh yes, I like that. don't say sorry. I think that's actually brilliant. Maybe one day we will have the anime next to analyze. And it would be nice to do a comparison between what we read now versus what's being portrayed in anime. All right, page 60. We have whack, smack, whack, and I really appreciate these little things here because it's kind of, how would you say it? It's kind of I want to say reminiscing, nostalgic. If you are someone who reads comics when you were young, seeing these words it's kind of nostalgic to see this. I don't know. I wasn't a comic girl. Was anyone in the chat? Or Moss, Anya, did you read comics? Oh, I remember, I think Moss, you mentioned it. You like Marvel, right?
I do, yeah. It's been one of the things, like, when I was a younger teenager, up to leading to an adult, it was one of my things, yeah.
Did you read the comics as well?
I haven't read loads of them. I'm going to be completely honest. I've read a couple of the Spider-Man and a couple of the Fantastic Four. I'm not the biggest fan of the comics. I'm more of the like the games or the films type of person.
Yeah, I totally get you. I'm more of the movie person, so anything that Disney has shown so far, that's kind of my gateway to Marvel. I know a little bit of it because I used to be into Teen Titans way back high school or even younger, and that's how I got myself into the DC world, and I heard about Marvel as the opposing other team. So yeah, I was such a DC girl back then. Never read the comics, but I mean, I've seen some panels on just Googling itself, and I would assume that seeing these words feel very nostalgic.
Oh, completely.
For anyone who likes shonens or action, or in general comics with heroes, very nostalgic to see all of these onomatopoeias, I believe is what they're called. Also, let me see in the chat. Raph said, I used to collect a lot of comics when I was a kid. Still read them now, but not as much as I used to. That's all good. I love that. I feel like it's very childhood. It's like, it's a proper childhood to have an interest, like comics back in the day. I mean, everyone is different in their childhood, but I feel like our childhoods was fun before technology took over. Anya says, it's funny that they've decided to delete the dialogue because this is, well, narcissistic. Oh, okay, interesting. So it sounds narcissistic. Okay, that's probably why they removed it. The animation team didn't want Lloyd to come off as narcissistic, considering that I think the impression I got with the direction that they went with the anime and also the manga, he really gave a very strong imposter syndrome. Like, he didn't really believe in himself. Actually, no, he does believe in himself, what I mean, but he tends to talk smack about himself a lot. So I feel like he's got a very strong imposter syndrome, and he puts himself to a very high standard that sometimes he feels like he fails it all the time. So yeah, to go with the decision to keep the dialogue, it makes it feel like out of place in a sense. Probably. That's kind of the sense I'm getting in terms of direction. Raph says, gonna check the anime books to see if there are any notes about that omission. Let us know if you do find it. That would be interesting. But anyways, back to page 60, we got to the action sequence, and we see Edgar finally arrive to the room. He was like, hey, you've gotta be kidding me. So again, showing their roles as villains. They're using vernacular English, BVE, Black Vernacular English, I think was what we called it. It goes by a lot of names, oh my goodness. But yeah, basically slang. They're using it as a way to show a villain again. So he's using the same one. You've got to be kidding me. So we see Twilight has already successfully taken out all of the goons. And he makes his way right behind Edgar, putting the gun behind his head. Fui says, I collected manga my whole life. Blame my mom who loved Lady Death and Astro Boy. We were introduced to anime through mom. Oh, that's sweet. I like that. I feel like if I was a mom in the future, I would be known as, like, collecting all of the merch, books, and analyses. Maybe my kid would be like me. That's actually really cute, Fui. In any case, very quick. Again, I want to highlight this. The fact that here we have a thread, right? I'm always the person who goes to about details with the finger trigger. The fact that he has the gun against Edgar's head and he has his finger in the trigger, he's really serious about blowing his head off. Like, Twilight is intentionally trying to kill him. And like, keep note again, Twilight's finger, I always like to point out how careful Endo-san is about placing Twilight with his finger inside the trigger chamber or it's outside. This one tells you, it already screams, his intention is to kill. Like, the fact that his finger's in a chamber, he intends, even if he messes up or he gets trigger happy, he tends to shoot him, you know? And we have here on page 61, the look of the devil, of course, and of course we're gonna reference this in his future, his flashback, his lore. Turn around and you're dead. Even the text too. The text too also mentions, oh sorry, that was such an ugly circle. The text too also highlights what he mentioned when he was a kid, playing what was his role again? The captain? The marshal? Major?
No, I think it's the advisor.
Advisor, thank you. Thank you, yes. So even as
You
advisor.
mean Twilight's role, right?
Yes, little redacted.
Yeah, Twilight is advisor. Yeah.
He uses the same line.
It's advisor.
Yes.
Yeah.
He uses the exact same
He
line.
uses the same.
And
And it's the same pen same panel, same.
Same design.
Yeah. Same
Yeah.
design. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's
Reborn.
and it's so cool to see this because when I first saw this, I got goosebumps. I was like, holy shit, this is so crazy. So again, I feel like the fact that the animated version they remove his little speech, it did cause what's it called? It was for good reasons why they removed it, because for one hand it does sound narcissistic on Twilight, so it could cause that confusion on his character, but also at the same time I feel like this scene is more impactful because they got rid of the fact that he said, oh, as if peons would like you could see my face and stuff. This scene alone just makes that even more impactful, just the fact that they omitted that scene. And I'm so glad Raph is with us, so he's like literally going to the chapter and pulling it out. So for you guys who don't know Raph is like, he's like Frankie level in terms of getting information. We just tell him a description of the manga chapter, he knows what it is, what page it's on. It's just incredible. We have someone amazing like him on the team. So Major Corporal and General were the other roles, I see. So we got Advisor, and I'm also backing up on the chat here. Fui said, I am sorry, going way back more. Leona said, my dad introduced me to anime. I brought him back to Ultraman figures from Japan, and all of his cousins are mega jealous. Aw, that's so sweet, Leona. Fui says, it's a day he'd be intentional about shooting Edgar. The man, despite having a daughter of his own, kidnapped a child to get him. He's seething. That makes sense, yeah. Like, that's the lowest you can do, kidnap a child. And then it's just really messed up to do that. And then, of course, Raph brought up the manga chapter here. And we get to see it's exactly the same one. Except he doesn't say... Oh, wait, he does say the same thing. Turn around and you're dead. It's exactly the same. And the design and the position, and we just see one of his friends is scared because the advisor got to him, and we have, I don't know, this was so magical because I remember when I read the dream, when I got to the chapter where I was reading his dream, I was like, why does this look so familiar? And then I remembered, I was like, oh my god, this was with Edgar, wasn't it? So yeah, I really love the attention to detail that Endo has for his for Spy Family, especially because he goes back and references the first chapter a lot. And the design is the same, the effects are the same, the words are the same, the position is the same too, except the difference I think here is the way he holds the gun. Because notice how young Twilight or young Redacted, the way he holds his gun is not the same way as adult Lloyd holds a gun. His thumb is here. That's one thing I wanted to indicate. His thumb is right here, which is different from the flashback when he was a kid. I guess it's just to show, very subtle again, hand placement can show knowledge in terms of how to use a gun. Twilight doesn't know how to use a gun when he was a kid, so that makes sense. Whereas this one, he has his thumb down on, I don't remember what this is called. My friend taught me this. But basically it's the trigger of the gun that will launch the bullet. So he's pulling it back, whatever that thing is called. And all he has to do is press the trigger. So the fact that you can even hear click is just telling you that he's ready to shoot. It's very, very, very like, oh my god, intense scene. I love it. So much justice put into here. Emmy says, I wonder if they are going to add this line for the flashback and scenes in scene 3. I wonder too, maybe. Louis says, I hope so. Raph is our SFX informant. That's the word I was looking for. Oh my god. I have too much brain fog. My brain fog is just as, is the equivalence of Twilight's flower in this scene. I just can't remember words right now. If we don't remember, it's documented, and he has it exactly, bar for bar. Lol, training. Also, the sound of the Spy Family, the sound effects sound, it's click in the current time, it's click for the flashback scene. Oh, interesting, now that you point that out. Which probably shows the difference of real gun and fake gun. Yes, that's correct. The toy gun doesn't have a hammer. Okay, that's what I was looking for, yes. Exactly what I was telling, what Raph's mentioned. At the very end here, there's something called the hammer. That's the word I was looking for. And it's a metal bar that you retract to ensure that the bullet will be sent. You know, you need that for certain guns. Some guns have that. Sometimes it's automatic, that the hammer goes back when you've already reloaded your gun. But in this case, he has to manually do it. And hammer. He has his thumb on the hammer and holding it so he doesn't get back to recoil. Doesn't get back recoil. Shouldn't he need to shoot at recoil? Okay, thank you. Thank you guys. This is why I need you guys. My brain cells are like not working right now. And then Edgar's like, Twilight. He's shocked. How's it going, Edgar? And how's Karen? How do you know my daughter's name? Okay, and I love that. You highlighted this. Okay, so Anya, take it away. Why did you underline my daughter?
Because it sounds like his identity as Robert is ending with like a father and a daughter, and his new life as Lloyd is starting when he gets a daughter. So it's kind of like there's two pairs of father and daughter in this story, and it signifies the beginning and the end.
Ooh,
Of
I like
Twilight.
that.
Twilight stages, different life stages of Twilight. If that makes sense.
No, that's so interesting that you point that out, because father-daughter duo, right? Like the fact that Lloyd was dressed up as Nguyen when he carried Anya out. They started a new chapter together as father-daughter, in a sense, even though they weren't aware, or well, Lloyd wasn't aware of his relationship with Anya in terms of him becoming attached to his daughter. He's been kind of in denial, but he was aware of it. But he is getting attached to her for sure, even though he tries to deny it, especially in the first couple chapters. Here we see, like you mentioned as well, the fact that they're saying, how's Karen? So yeah, in one hand, it's a threat because he's definitely flexing that he knows his daughter and he can definitely harm her. And on the other hand, Edgar using the word my daughter is also being used again as kind of a gateway to show like this is the end of another parallel of a father-daughter relationship. And I like this because on Twitter I've been seeing a lot of like, I don't know, Demon Slayer with Tanjiro and his sister going one direction, and there was Daki and her brother, I forgot her brother's name, Gu something, I can't remember, on the other direction. It's just giving this whole parallel kind of feel of like siblings, and then here in Spy Family it's father-daughter, you know? It's very interesting, and I like that you pointed that out. Page 62, we have, it's my job, Edgar, that's what spies do. I know her height, her weight, her shoe size, her favorite foods. I know how many moles are on her body. Damn, that just goes to show it's like, for me, I was like, whoa. Knowing how many moles on her body, so it's like, okay, I kind of get it. Spies do sleep with their targets. I get it. So it kind of gave this James Bond kind of feel for me, but at the same time, you know, it was the sexiness of James Bond in a sense that I kind of got the vibe when he said that, like, okay, he probably slept with his daughter, but also at the same time, it's also shows vulnerability, because I always perceive that, you know, when people get into a situation of being intimate with someone, especially like taking them to bed, for example, it's the ultimate form of vulnerability. That's the impression I got in terms of reading this as well. So not just like one hand the glamour of being a spy, quote quote, like James Bond romanticized it, but the vulnerability that comes with it too. The fact that he knows how many moles are in her body, it would make Edgar feel very uncomfortable. He's like, I did not know he was this close to my daughter. Like, how did he, Twilight, get close to my daughter? Like, what could he possibly do if he got really close to her? Also going back to the chat here, Raph says the toy gun doesn't have a hammer. Lol, that's true. And usually it's plastic, so it can't even be interactable, I think. Fui says a hammer, he has his him. Okay. Thank goodness he wasn't there when Edgar shot the guy in front of her. More anxiety over if she had trauma. That's so true, yeah. We were mentioning in the last episode that Anya witnessed Edgar shooting one of his goons. And if Lloyd was there to witness that Anya had witnessed that, he would be even more pissed because that's more trauma. But anyways, moving back here, we see, and I know that although it's nothing compared to you, she's involved in plenty of criminal activity. You're out of your mind. My daughter would never. Edgar, I know how much you care about your daughter, so I'll tell you what. If you want her to have any semblance of a normal life, you leave me the hell alone. and then we hear like a crunch in the background. I remember hearing this crunch sound too in the anime. Can't remember what it was though. But Anya, why did you underline first, "My daughter would never"? Why did you underline that?
Because it's funny because Edgar didn't know anything about Karen's criminal activity, although they both are criminals in a sense.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Twilight doesn't know that Anya's doing his work for her, like consciously.
Right.
It's kind of like big spy, little spy, big criminal, small criminal, and it's kind of like a weird parallel in hindsight.
No, that's incredible. I didn't even notice that. Like, you know, like you mentioned, big criminal, little criminal, father and daughter, and same thing with Lloyd, in terms of Lloyd and Anya, big spy, little spy. That's actually really cool that you point that out. That's incredible. Wow. Also, you circled another thing here. So why did you circle Lloyd's face?
It's because Moss has pointed out what he said to the goons, right? He said,
Right.
And actually it's funny because in the Japanese version he actually says, "You're not going to even see my shadow," and actually they can't see his shadow, right? If you look at previous panels, it's just a proof of smoke, and they can't even see his shadow or anything. But then when he faces Edgar, that's when the flowers, the smoke or the flower starts to really go out a bit, and then we can see a bit of his face. It's kind of like a more heart-to-heart conversation or more sincere conversation that didn't happen when he's facing the goons, but he's having this conversation with Edgar, who's kind of like the final boss in this single chapter.
Right.
But then he never really shows his face, because we can see, like, first we can see his eyes, and then we can see the rest of his face without his eyes, and then we can see his eye again, but only his eye. It's kind of, and that he's still not showing his full face in front of Edgar.
Yeah, that's right. I like that you point that out. Oh my god, the small details. How... This is why we need extra heads, guys, because it's like you mentioned, the moment we see Edgar come into play, I did not even notice this until visually you mentioned it. We only see a silhouette of his face. We see this. His eyes are showing. We can see how intense he is. In this particular panel on page 61 of Canva, we don't even get to see a full view of his face. We see his feet. We see a shadow of maybe partial face, his mouth and his nose, but never ever the full picture. We never see Twilight's eyes showing along with his mouth and nose. It's like Endo purposely is trying to line up the what he's saying, like, you will never see my face, just like he's saying to us readers who are reading it. So brilliant, man. I didn't even notice this. Holy crap. That's so good. Thank you for pointing that out, Anya. And also you mentioned it here too, because going on that tangent, you're circling his eye here, right? Is that what you were trying to also mention as well? That we only see a partial of his face.
Yeah, it's the same.
So good. Oh my god. Endo's such a brilliant man. Oh my god. I'm gonna go ahead and pause and read also in the chat. It says here, Anya says, sorry, not Anya. Fui says, he's a Romeo spy. Romeos in the Cold War were used as honey traps for high-position people and families. Okay, interesting point. I didn't really think of that. So we're adding some historical context here, so I really love that too. So he was a honey trap for high-position people and families. Now, there were Romeos in the Stasis too. Yuri would have been fit for this role should Endo decide that. That makes sense. Yeah, I could see that happen. Female spies of the same position were called swallows. Oh, I love the historical lore here. Very interesting, because like we're thinking about the timeline, so it makes sense. And then also here, fun tidbit from Google and Spy Family podcasts. That's actually very good. Thank you for sharing that. And Leona said, back to mention of Karen's body, I thought it was a really clever way of alluding to the full nature of Twilight's work without being crass. I agree. Again, the fact that he says, I know how many moles are on her body, it just already told me, like, I'm like, oh, it's very James Bondy. He's sleeping with his enemy. And it makes sense based on the historical evidence or the context that Anya also mentioned, Fui mentioned. Sorry, I keep saying Anya because I look at your icon and I think about Anya. Fui mentioned, and basically, it's just showing, like, you know, he was a honey trap during this time period. This is the 1970s, as we already established, right? Late 1970s. It's a very late 1970s. Its area is in Europe, Russia, Germany, that area. So whatever history is going on in that area is kind of influencing the chapter and shaping it in a way. That's kind of the vibe I got from Endo shaping the world of Spy Family, is that it has some historical context of influence, some realism, but not consistent with the timeline. But in any case, Anya in the chat says, I don't exactly think that's the case, but let's talk about it later when Fiona talks about the other identities. Okay. Fui says, I think he's done Romeo work. I don't mean he doesn't use honey trap. I just think he doesn't solely use that. It would make sense in terms of like it's partial. I think that's what I wanted to point out in terms of what Fui was saying. It could be a partial thing that it is expected that it's something he will do in any way to get information, but I digress for now, so we can talk about that in a spin-off for sure. Yeah. So page 63 we have, if you understand, then go straight home. Very interesting here. If you leave me the hell alone, and if you understand, go straight home. So pretty sure Twilight makes sure that what's his name? That Edgar leaves. He makes sure that he leaves without turning around and looking at him. Very interesting. And something that we missed out, and something I think that was captured in the anime, now that we see this jump between these two panels. I don't know what crunch is supposed to mean in terms of the manga, but we see in the anime, Twilight lowers the gun and he shoots the gun on the floor, which was near Edgar's foot. Whereas in the manga, there was no gun near his foot. I think even going back to page 62 doesn't show there's a gun there. Page 61 doesn't even show a gun near his feet, but in the in the anime adaptation, they put that there was a gun near his foot. But Twilight fires at it to move it away from him. Let's see here. So yeah, Fui says maybe it isn't his specialty. He's known as a shadow. Okay, leave me the hell alone. One of those few times this manga curses. They did use the word bastard when one of the bad guys were talking. It does happen. It does happen. Okay, so we get to this part on page 63, and we notice that Twilight is walking away from the crime scene for sure, and he has removed his disguise a little bit. He looks more casual, and I didn't realize like the subtleness of like just changing an outfit. Just the fact he removed the jacket, he looks like kind of a different person based on what he's wearing. I don't know why. Also interesting, one thing to point out, the profanity on the word. Dang, Endo really pushing the buttons here. I did not even know there was an F word in one of the pictures. It's really reinforcing that Spy Family is not a kids manga. Spy Family is not for kids. Not for kids. I did not even notice a profanity in the wall until I just looked just now. I'm like, what the heck? So yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
I know. Now that I see it, I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm just like, I didn't even notice. But interesting. But it makes sense because this looks like an abandoned alley, probably a meeting place for goons to meet up. And the fact that there's an F word here just goes to show. Interesting. Something I wanted to point out, I don't know if this can be extended in terms of manga. There was a rule I remember reading in terms of how to rate movies, and it's based on how many times you can say the F word. The one time that you mention an F word, it is considered a PG-16 or PG-18 film. Sorry, not PG-18, PG-16 or PG-14 film, and they would say it's sensitive words. But if you go beyond a number of times that they say the F word, it's now considered rated R. Interestingly.
Really?
Yes. I remember reading this in terms of when I was looking into it a long time ago. Now I have to find it again. So give me 1 second. Anyone in the chat want to also look into it? How many times can you say the F word in movies? For PG-13 or PG-16? Yes, I found it. PG-13 F-word limitation. While there's no set number, the Motion Picture Association of America, MPAA, generally allows only one use of the F-word in a PG-13 movie. More than that, or any use of the word in a sexual context, would typically result in a rated R. However, there have been exceptions where movies with more than one use of the word have still received a PG-13 rating due to specific context on a special vote by the MPAA board. So, I remember that. Oh my god, yes. So automatically, that's why I wanted to show the importance for just saying the F word. The fact that it shows there, this automatically dubs this series to be PG-13 if we're gonna go by MPAA standards. This is already a PG-13 marking. It was very interesting because I remember that when I read that, I was like, what the hell? I thought the F word is only limited to, you know, like rated R movies, but yeah, interesting. So it makes me wonder if the fact that Endo dropped the F word, could it relate to PG-13 in terms of the rating scale for MP motion pictures animation? There we go. Very interesting. It takes reading and noticing things like the eyeballs and the disembodied parts during the proposal, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think it's for kids, especially stuff like that. But yes, moving on, we see Lloyd is walking and he notices that Anya was just hiding behind the box. It's so cute. And she's just playing with the ants. That's so cute. There's something very innocent about kids with bugs, especially with ants here. Anya doesn't kill the ants. I think I just want to point that out. She's kind of teasing them. She puts her finger down and notice how she's made the ants curve around her finger in a way. I feel like this is a small foreshadow. Everyone in the Forgers are wrapped around Anya's fingers. I think. Can we say that? Can I say that?
I think you're right, yeah. I mean, that's definitely a different way of seeing that than I took it. I'm gonna be completely honest.
I just noticed it just now. I'm just being honest. Because I don't think Endo would do something like this without reason to. I'm just bringing up again, eyes only if you've read the interview. All of his colleagues mentioned that Endo is a very attentive to detail kind of person. When he worked on, I think, Blue Exorcist, he was talking about the details of what kind of gravestone is it, what kind of materials on the gravestone, is it dirt, is it this or that, how should I do it, this and that. So the fact that he has Anya squat down, playing with ants, putting her finger down, doesn't kill any of them, kind of feels like there's manipulation. Like, again, you can manipulate a line. Like, okay, like, for example, the lines are the busy workers, she puts her finger down, they're gonna walk around her. Like, she manipulated them to avoid her finger. So it feels like there is a power, a foreshadow of Anya having power, you know? And I feel like this was intentional. Oh my god, I just, again, this went over my head when I first read it, but revisiting this again, I'm like, holy crap, I missed out so many details. But yes, it shows, let me see here. Fui says, I like it, and shows Endo loves his dark stuff while drawing a lighthearted comedy spy. I agree, yeah. I really love the dichotomy between heaviness and light topics that Endo has. Those are the kind of things I love about these kind of manga genres. Leona says, also hints to the power to influence within Anya. Yeah, that's right. Everyone will move to Anya. And interestingly, a lot of the times whenever I see power or influence is being used, I typically see chess pieces as a symbolism for that. I've been watching like other animes, and one of them was, I think, Raeliana or something, moved to the Duke's house or something. The reason why Raeliana went to the Duke's mansion or something, or ran away from the Duke's mansion, when they're having a discussion, they're looking at chess pieces. It's supposed to represent an intellectual conversation and topic, and Anya is not really an intelligent child, as we all know, in terms of her, at least we could say in her scholarly intelligence, she's not that bright. But I like that they're using ants here because it's a sign of innocence. It's curiosity from a child. Children would behave like this. It would make sense because I've seen my kids do this too when I used to work at a elementary school. And again, just a very subtleness of just showing the ants are gonna walk around her finger and then still carry forward. It kind of gives me that feeling of Anya's involvement in the mission is that there are going to be hiccups, but I think she would save the day because the ants are still, in a sense, they're still maintaining their line. Like, it kind of shows her finger down is the hiccup, and then she helps bring them back. And it makes sense because considering the clock bomb, I can't even talk anymore. The bomb in the clock tower arc and also the cruise arc, Anya has been involved and she helped fix the situation, right? She saved their parents. So it's very interesting to see that, especially shown through ants. Very innocent but powerful. Let's see here. Raph says nothing concrete, but the crunch sound in Japanese seems like, I can't read that. I think that's hiragana? No, not hiragana, sorry. That's katakana. I can't read that yet. Which can be used to emphasize a serious face or a stressing sound. Oh, okay. Thank you. With Twilight's face contorting in his anger, I think it's a crunch sound fits. Okay, makes sense. And then Anya says, I think it's the sound of him gritting his teeth. Ooh, that too. Brilliant. I didn't think about that. Emmy says, I guess in the anime, they reference it by animating his eyes getting all dilated and big and angry. That's right. And then, of course, shooting the ground as a finishing blow to show how serious he is. So we get to page 64. We see Anya running to her dad and running and hugging his leg. Papa, and actually, as we all know, chapter 111 just came out recently. She chose him. I am 100% a believer. Anya has chosen her protector. Anya chose him. That's what I'm trying to write here if my pen doesn't give hiccups. So Anya chose him. Because we get to see this again, like she hugs her mom's leg too in chapter 111. But here we have Twilight being hugged by Anya, and seeing her automatically throw her hands around his leg. It's her way of showing closeness and trust. Then Twilight responds saying, "How did you? I mean, what are you doing away from home?" Okay, you circled this, Anya. Why?
Because it's funny that he almost loses he knows he should not know that why Anya's here.
Mm-hmm.
So he tries to pretend like, oh, why are you wandering away from home? And then he quickly follows by making an excuse of why he's there, which is totally irrelevant. But that's
No, I agree. Yeah, because he forgot for a moment. He was like, "How did you?" And let me see. I wish he could finish the sentence. Like, how did you get back here? How did you? What else would you think would finish the sentence? How did you know? Or something like that. I feel like maybe he wanted to say, how did you know it was over?
maybe both, because I don't think she knows it's over, but she's just waiting for him. Like, she's just waiting the whole thing to be over.
That's the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit in word choice. Instead of how, why didn't they use the word why? Why would make the most sense, I think.
No,
Yeah, I think so too. I think why could be. But Moss? What? Yes, Moss.
he's cut himself off here. But do you not think it's, how did you know I would be here? How did you know where I was?
Yes.
Like that's the unanswered question, because obviously he doesn't know that she knows. So she shouldn't be anywhere near him. That's probably why he's asking how. It's like, how did you find me, type of thing.
Yeah.
Not the why.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's such a strange word to say. How did, and then I was here, for example.
No, I think if you go back to page 56 in Canva, it's actually she's just waiting outside.
Yeah, like she never left.
She's just waiting at the exit.
Exactly. So I feel like when you use the word how, it would make sense to finish it off was, how did you know I was here? Would make more sense. Also, I'm going to change the font to show it was me who did this. If you're using the word how, it would make sense to say, how did you know I was here? Because again, we got to finish the thought. Finish the thought. That's the rule of English. Finish what you're saying. I just don't understand why didn't they use the word why? Because why would make the most sense in this scene? Because like, why did you stay would be a better question, right? It would make the best context. Like, why did you stay? Oops, I'm just gonna delete this. I'll duplicate this. Why did you stay? There we go. So yeah, it just bothers me a little bit as to why they didn't say, why did you stay, instead of how did you know I was here. It's just a really interesting word choice. I'm like, why would he say how? It's just interesting to me. Or yeah, what Emmy said, how did you know I'd be here? And then Raph says, Anya clinging to her parents. And then we have the example of Anya when she was saved by Lloyd, Anya seeking comfort from her mom after the bus hijacking arc, and then Anya hugging the leg of her mother, her bio mom in chapter 111. Yeah, so it just goes to show she chooses these people based on the way she just like hugs them, I would say. Leona says, ooh, so I think in the Spanish dub, I think he says como me, meaning hinting he was going to say, how did you find me? Oh, okay, interesting. We have another version. I like that. Another variation. How did you find me? That's another one. And it makes sense because she's now addressing to him as Papa, now not Nguyen. So I think in a way subconsciously Lloyd was thinking, how did you find me? Me probably referring to Twilight. Me as in Twilight, kind of a meta moment. How did you find me? How did you realize it was me? I guess. That's the impression I kind of got from that, but she's screaming Papa. And then like you mentioned here, Anya, I mean, what are you doing here anyway? Like he caught himself, because it would make the more sense here that she would assume that Twilight or quote quote Papa was home. Papa was home. Or maybe Papa was at the police officers, with the police officers as well. And I'm gonna put PO for police officers. Sorry, I cannot finish my words, especially with this stupid glitch that's going on whenever I write. The dad was either at home freaking out that she was kidnapped, or maybe he didn't even come home, he was still on his errand, or he was at the police station reporting that she was absent. So I kind of feel like this context was saying, what are you doing away from home? Away from home. Based on his word choice, I could easily say that Lloyd was not at home, he was still on his errand. Just that word choice alone tells me, oh, it's not that he wasn't at home or that he was at the police station. It was because he just found out that maybe he was, what's the word for it? That he was probably still away at his errand, so he didn't know that she was kidnapped. That's kind of the impression I got from that. So thank you for sharing that, Leona. So yeah, seeing things from different translations, it opens your mind to see what did they actually want to say. Emmy says, in Portuguese, he says, why did you? I didn't know how in English would be so structured, because I don't know how the entire line would be in Portuguese either. So, porque você, I think is how you say it. She clings when she feels safety. She's scared of Yor at first. It's when she protected her at the store that she starts clinging, holding her hand often too. Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, the way the language is structured is very interesting. This is why I'm such a huge linguistic nerd when it comes to this stuff. Anyways, moving on. The next panel. As for me, I just came here to shop. Looks like they're out of business though. Such a shame. Papa is a really big liar, and this is so funny because I love mini expressions of the characters. Lloyd definitely looks like a dork here. It's just so funny. I say it in a very loving and affectionate way. And we mention here, as for me, I just came here to shop, right? So it just goes to show, again, reinforcing my assumption that Lloyd is shopping. He's still on his errand. He didn't come home. He didn't realize Anya got kidnapped. So it reinforces that thought. And then we have Anya here saying, like, he's such a liar, really. And then Anya decides to use the conversation she had with Nguyen, right? I was playing tag with strange man. And then his cause-eyed comment sounds dangerous. I see, was that fun? All right, Moss, take over here. Tell me, why did you circle this panel?
At first, it was just because it was hilarious. Just in how indifferent Twilight is. And then I took a couple of seconds to like actually look at that specific square. Twilight looks so stressed.
Yes.
As he's looking down at Anya, being like obviously it doesn't mimic a parent being like, what did you just say? You were doing what with who? It's a, right, okay, so that just happened. That's kind of like a realization for him in a way. It was just very much like he's just not parental at all. Like if anyone else had told their parents that, they'd be like, are you okay? Were you hurt? Like, how did this happen? How did you get here? And he's just asking like, was it okay? Was it fun? He's so indifferent.
I think that's so freaking hilarious because considering since Lloyd was behind the mask of Nguyen, he's avoiding questions, so he goes with it's just, I don't know, it's like just such a comedic decision because like you mentioned, he doesn't sound like a parent. He's so indifferent about Anya's danger. He's like, oh, that sounds dangerous. Was it fun? Just like how he kind of shrugged off when she's like, I want a silent pistol. He's like, only if it's on sale. It's just so funny because it is very comedic, but at the same time it's justified because he doesn't want to branch more into, you know how Lloyd is. He wants to stay away from going into details because it would alert the more the side that's like, this is suspicious. He's trying to get away from the suspicions. So he tries to end the conversation very quickly by being indifferent, which I think is just so funny, the way it's just being used. Anya, you also circled, sounds dangerous. Why did you do that?
I think it echoes remember when he went out? I just posted a screenshot in the chat. And it's not safe out there.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, why are you outside the house? It's not safe out there.
Yeah.
Then he also says sounds dangerous.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Clever. I'm really glad you brought that back. So it just goes to show there's danger outside. It's not safe to be outside. There you go. We got a small reference back to a previous page of this chapter. Let me see here. We have Raph saying, in the English dub of the anime, Lloyd first asked why Anya stayed before his fake question. Why Anya stayed. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. Like, why did you stay? Interesting. So they actually used the word why. That's what I was saying. I was like, in the manga, why didn't they just use the word why? Because it would make the most sense in this context. So the fact that Raph is saying that he said why, and I kind of remember it. He was like, why? What are you doing here? Something like that. Very interesting. So I'm really glad the animators were able to stitch it again. Like I mentioned, kudos to the translators, or like, sorry, not the translators. Kudos to the animation team because they see a flaw. They cleaned it up. They made something tied all together like a good, neatly tied bun. Like, especially the transitions of, remember on the last episode I mentioned, where did the grocery bag come from? Like, from one panel, Lloyd had nothing. The next panel, he has a grocery bag in his hand. Like, where did that come from? And the animation team was able to fill in the gap of that to make it flow better. Something here to point out. Here, Leona said, I wonder if he's also coming down from the high of almost offing people. It could be, yeah. If you're someone who goes through a very intense moment, and I speak from firsthand experience, you go through something that makes you feel super stressed, and the moment you relax, like you're walking away from the scene, your brain is turned off. It's as if you sacrifice some of your brain cells to be like active in that moment, but then once you're like relaxed, you're like, your guard is not up anymore, right? It could be, it's exactly what Leona says. Maybe it's coming from that high. He's coming down from that high. Raph also says, oh wait, let me correct that. He shows surprise about her staying. You're still here. So interesting in the, something to point out, I like to combine the actual voice that they actually say in Japanese and then also compare it to the English translation, especially from the Japanese dub, because we get to see it more accurately. Like, does Seguchi-san, the voice actor of Lloyd, does he actually say why when he was speaking? But in the English version, they say, you're still here. It could be due to localization, because that's always something I always want to point out, is we skip the exact details. We go straight into localization. And transcribing, or not just transcribing, translating in a manga versus a media is different. They're slightly different from each other. So localization takes place more often in moving media, or like in Japanese being translated to an English audience, especially in Japanese dubs. A lot of localization happens in anime, more so than manga, I think. I don't know. Maybe just me. But anyways, moving on. So we have here Anya really showing that she was afraid because we hear the sound effect clench. She held his leg. It was a little scary. So yeah, she admits it too. And you circled this, Anya. Why did you circle that?
I think this is also a reaction to this. And this.
Oh, okay, yeah. So she was kind of responding to his previous question. Like, yeah, it's dangerous. Like, it was a little scary. And then, I see that's why you circled that. And then going back to the next panel, I want to go home with you, Papa. And I think this is cute, because I think I mentioned this in the first episode alone, right? The 3-hour session. I mentioned about home versus house. Anya uses home here. And then she says, with you, Papa. So she now has associated, she made that connection, the equal sign right here, or the relationship between these two, is that her home is her dad. You know, now she has someone she feels safe with to call home. It's so cute and also so sad at the same time, because considering we know everything we know about Anya, it hurts my heart. All right, page 65. We're almost done. We're wrapping up this chapter. I can't believe we're almost done with chapter 1. Holy crap, you guys were right. I thought we were gonna be like another episode. But damn, we're already here. Then we have Lloyd here actually being very sincere. But then he's using Twilight eyes. In a way, it seems kind of soft for Twilight's eyes. I don't know. Can you guys see it? Like, it's sharp on the edge, but his eyes being big kind of tells me that maybe he's softness. Anything with like enlarged eyes kind of gives me an idea or feeling of softness, softening. I don't know. Maybe that's the way of communicating. Emmy says it's kind of mixed redacted Twilight. Yeah. That's what I was saying. We see a little bit of it, but I see more Twilight coming out here than redacted. What did you write here, Anya?
Oh, it's actually the Japanese version of this dialogue. So it's I think in Japanese it's more ambiguous in whom he's asking, because in English you have to have a clear person that this is. But in Japanese it feels like he can't be talking to Anya, but this could be a question for himself.
A question for himself. Could you explain more on that?
Because I think the more literal translation would be, is it right? Kind of like that. Or is it...
Like, is that
it's
right?
It's very ambiguous. It's kind of like, it could be interpreted as, is that the right decision for me to do? Or do you feel it's fine for you? It's kind of like it could mean both.
Decision. I can't spell. Decision.
Or is that correct? Or is that... It's kind of like... It's kind of like a both-way question. Like, it could be he could be asking Anya, and he could be asking himself.
I see what you're saying. That's actually brilliant. I love that.
And I think that's why he thinks about, because the whole page, it's him making the decision rather than Anya, right?
Right.
Because Anya's decision has already been made in the last page, when Anya said, I want to go home with you, right? So Anya's decision has already been made in the last page. So this page, in fact, is about himself, his decision, right? So I feel like this is why this question is said to be ambiguous, for that exact reason.
No, that makes sense. I like that. I actually... God damn it, English. Casey Lowe, why'd you do this to us? Just like what you mentioned, the thing about English is that we're very subject heavy. We need to know who the subject is at all times. That's why we always use pronouns I. Use proper nouns. We need a noun. We need a noun as a subject in the sentence. Whereas in Japanese, it's okay to omit the subject in Japanese. I'm sorry, I just repeated myself. Yes, in Japanese, you don't say watashi namae wa Hana. You can just say namae wa Hana desu, or something like that, right? So they drop the watashi. They're not a subject heavy language, which is very interesting. They like to omit it, and you're just left alone to listen to the context of the dialogue to kind of figure out who's speaking. And for the most part, I think 80 or 90% of the time, when there is no subject mentioned, it's usually the speakers talking about themselves, not unless they indicate a different topic first, and then they keep going on that tangent. But just like what you mentioned, you and Raph mentioned, is that right or is that okay? The fact that there is no pronoun there, whereas in English, that's not it. Sorry. Whereas in English, they have to use the word you, right? Are you sure about that? The fact that they omitted that completely with the question, is that okay? It's so interesting, because it's just going to show, like, I guess localization is one thing. The reason why I put the question, is that right, is because that's kind of a common translation I hear across anime when they say, oh, is that right? Like what you're saying, is that right? Like as if, I don't know, like maybe the parent is acknowledging the student or the pupil, but the fact that you're saying, is that okay? And I love that it's presented this way because, like you mentioned, Anya, we don't know if he's saying, is that okay, is reiterating back to, is that okay for me, Twilight, to make this decision for us? Or is it okay in terms of, is it okay with you, Anya? Is it okay for you? Indicating to Anya. And then with the English version, what they did was they mentioned you. Are you sure about that? That basically IDs like who we're talking to. We are classifying that you is Anya. Whereas we're missing out the fact that it could be both ways, to Twilight or to Anya. Very interesting. Yeah, translations. Gotta love it and hate it at the same time. Emi said, I showed Anya before in Portuguese in ten certeza, which is you sure. Oh, interesting. And then you sure is another variation. So notice when they say you sure, it kind of feels like it's also a phrasal. What a phrasal verb that we call it now? I don't know. Not a phrasal verb. Shoot, they have a word for this. It's one of those words that you put them together. God damn it. Grammar, you're failing me. Is that what we called it? Phrasal words? Maybe? Yeah, phrasal words. I'm gonna double check that. It's gonna bother me. What is phrasal words? Because I feel like it's like the expression, make the bed. Like, make your bed, wash the dishes. It consists of a verb combined with an adverb or preposition. The resulting phrase has a meaning that's different from the original verb. Look up basically means to search up. I mean phrasal words, not verbs. There's a saying, like, I can't even remember it, man, and I'm an English teacher here. Phrasal word is less common. It's a multi-word unit that functions as a single word, so a know-it-all, a well-known author, a never-ending story. So yeah, phrasal words are basically words that are just put together. So like when you say you sure feels like a phrasal word now. I feel like that's the word I'm looking for. It's not sitting right with me for some reason. But anyways, Raph is saying, from the original translation of the chapter before Viz picked it up, it says, is that all right? Yeah. Is that all right? I like that. Ooh, do you know who's the translator before Viz picked it up? Yes, I would love to know that too, Raph. Emmy says, yeah, the translation has the same grammar that's going on for Portuguese. The formal way to say it would be você tem certeza. It sounds like, are you certain? But they cut it off to tem certeza, which would be the same if you free translating it in English, you sure, instead of are you sure. Ah, interesting. Looking into it right now, he's in the larger S. Oh, he's in the Spy Family server. Oh, nice. Thanks, Raph. Thank you for the research. That's incredible. Fui says, I like the commentary in the anime guidebook. Having driven the gangster Lloyd and Anya's return home, after Anya runs up to Lloyd, you can tell from his hand movements, head pat, as he comforts her that the nature of their relationship has changed. Exactly! Yes, thank you for pulling that out, Fui. So we can see here, if you leave me again, I'll cry. So interesting, moving on a little bit from this, it makes sense why Casey Lowe would say you here, because it's just Anya. She's the only interlocutor or listener here, and she even threatens him. She says, if you leave again, I'll cry. There we go, the power of Anya with the ants having Lloyd or Twilight wrapped around her finger, like the ants moving around her finger. She's manipulating. She's been fostered out and returned 4 times. And that really hurts, man. I don't know if this is symbolic. I know in Japanese culture and some Asian cultures, 4 equals death. Right? If she goes back again, is it death? Like, is it gonna kill her? Would she go into a deeper danger? Or is it gonna kill her in terms of emotional and mental? That's another way of saying death, because it doesn't have to be like physically dead, but it could be in terms of her emotions. Like, will she be actually, will her spirit actually be crushed this time? Ooh, I never thought of that. Yeah. So the fact that they say 4 times, I remember, like, numbers are always symbolic in literature. So 4 equals death. If Lloyd brings her back, maybe. I wonder what kind of death would happen. What did you want to say, Anya?
I think it's interesting because she's already been returned 4 times.
Yes.
But I was just looking at what death also means in philosophy today. Just happened.
Yeah.
So death also means change.
Right.
That's why she has already been returned 4 times. That means this is a 5th chance, right?
Yes.
So it means changes come after 4 times.
Yeah, I like that. Yes. I'm really glad you looked into that today, because it's giving the phoenix story. Like, you know how a phoenix dies, it raises from the ashes, so it's rebirth. So her 5th time is her rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Yes, you guys are all giga big brain people. I love it. We have rebirth. Sorry, Lloyd. I wrote across your face. This stupid pen. Rebirth. Fifth time's a charm equals rebirth. So very interesting that we looked into the word 4. It just stood out to me because when I saw the word 4, I was like, I remember 4 means death in Japanese culture or Asian culture. Leona said, I just looked this up in numerology. The number 5 is associated with freedom, adventure, and independence. Oh, it's even deeper than we thought. Okay, I see you. So we have freedom, adventure. Freedom. I give up. I'm gonna just use text. I can't do this, guys. So you said 5th equals in numerology, right? 5 in numerology. I hope I spelled this right. Numerology equals freedom, adventure, and independence. You guys are brilliant. I love y'all so much. And then let me see if I can shrink this down. That is so smart, you guys. I cannot with y'all. Let me just say it's an honor to be analyzing this with you guys. It's just really fun. I love the knowledge I get from rereading Spy Family and just like learning it from your guys' lens too. So thank you so much. Also fitting in the phrase of Master of Change. I like that. Yes. You guys are great. Now moving on to the next panel here, we see that Lloyd is looking down. And I misspelled numerology. Good job, Scarlett. Down here. All right, let's go home. And then again, the head pat right here. And then we're done basically, right? Wait, can we finish this? Are we done? This is like the last few pages.
No, there's a good couple of pages left.
Ah, damn it! I thought we were done.
I think we'll have one more episode. So I think that's why I've stopped there.
Oh, okay, got it. You're right. Good call, Moss. So yeah, 5 in numerology, freedom, adventure, independence, master of change. Very good. And then again, what Fui was saying earlier was the head pat, and I noticed, Anya, you circled that. Why?
Yeah, because I think this is when he made the decision. Like, that's why it signifies. It is. That's why I think that's why the animator said nature has changed when he pats his head, because he has made the decision. Look at like the last panel. This is him making the decision, and his head pat is him finalizing the decision.
Yes, I agree. Something else I wanted to add is this is something that I've been kind of noticing across Japanese media as a whole. Japanese media is not very, how do I say this? They're not known to be very intimate people. They're the ones who don't do hugs. They find that kind of strange. I've worked with Japanese students when I was working in my university before, and they tell me it's very alien to have someone just come up and hug them. Like, the only person who can hug them is their significant other. They feel kind of weird about it, especially the opposite sex, opposite gender, whatever. I've had a male Japanese student who I got really close to. We don't have any intimate relationship whatsoever, but I was his trusted tutor when I helped him with his papers. Amazing kid. I really adored him because he was such a hardworking student, and I would always praise him because in the beginning he had, like, I guess, if I remember correctly, C's for his papers. But after we've been working with each other for like a few weeks, his paper bumped to an A. I was so proud of him, and I adore him so much because, it's like, I'm just basically his scholarly tutor, his guide. And at the end of the session, I would ask him, out of permission, is it okay if I may hug you? Because understanding his culture, you don't typically hug a Japanese man if you are, even as a foreigner woman, because it gives the impression, especially to other Japanese students, that you got a relationship going on with them. So the way that they show intimacy or like closeness, usually through family as well, and something I realized, head pats. Head pats are their way of showing intimacy, in a sense, if that makes sense, or closeness.
Like affection?
Yeah, affection. That's right. So I noticed this especially in a lot of them. There's also one that I noticed here, I think, if I can remember. I was looking at Twitter, and I remember I came across a post about Sarada from Boruto, which is the second installment of Naruto. Like, after Naruto ended, Boruto's the next season. Every time they see Sarada, the daughter of Sasuke and Sakura, everyone head pats her. They pat her head. It's a sign of affection, Like, Naruto is affectionate to Sarada because that's Sakura's daughter, and of course Sakura and also Sasuke, the parents, also head pat Sarada, even though there are times when they hug her and also kiss her, So it just goes to show it's a reflection of their culture. To show head pat is just a first form of showing affection. That's what I wanted to point out. So yeah, it's not very common to show hugs in Japanese culture if it's the opposite sex, but of course if it's the same sex, it's okay. Like, for example, when Anya ran to hug yours, like, after the bus arc, she hugs her. Like, she's a mom hugging her daughter. Makes sense. That would be accepted in society. Lloyd hasn't shown that level of affection with Anya yet. This is the most he's ever shown her. And something I want to indicate too is that even throughout the manga and anime, I want to say in terms of canon, Lloyd never has held Anya's hand when Anya is also holding yours hand. Something I want to indicate. The only time he does that is in Code White. That's all I wanted to point out. It just goes to show he's disconnected from the family. But when it's Lloyd left with Anya, or if yours present, Lloyd will hold Anya's hand if yours not holding Anya's hand. It's like a trade-off. But it's never been that all three of them hold their hands together. Except for Code White. Something I wanted to recall. But anyways, reading back on the chat. Leonis said, or no, I read Leonis. Anya says in the chat, I've heard that the JP people think holding hands is more intimate than sex. Yes, that's very true. They think holding hands with someone is even more intimate. Raf says, the person who was the editor for the original translation of Spy Family is Jordan Reynolds. He helped with the manga from the chapters 1 through 12. Here's the full old team. The translation team by Colin Milken, lettered by Kara Sinks, edited by Jordan Reynolds, media Joe Co Ltd. I don't know what this one is, or YKA service Sky Japan Inc. Interesting. Thank you so much for getting that. Yeah, As you guys can see, Raph definitely lives up to being the #1 informant in Spy Family. I don't know how the hell you find all of these stuff, but you're amazing. Thank you. Becky is allowed to hug Anya. She's her best friend. Immediately best friend. Yes, best friend too. Best friend is okay. They could do stuff like that. Raph says they all hold hands in official anime art. Oh! Yes, in official anime art and also in the movie, but just not in the storyline. I like to separate them only because it's like, okay, we see the manga as the canon. It's a canonical view, but seeing them in official art, I don't think they have reached that stage. It's just used for promotional services. And I like that you point that out. Because I see the merch as a glimpse of future outfits, future events, hints for future stuff, but I personally don't take the official art as canonical stuff because the manga hasn't addressed them. Because we know how it will end. Raph says, one more thing to add for the scene. There's notes from the anime team while adapting it. Okay. It says here, having driven away from the gangsters, Lloyd and Anya return home. After Anya runs up to Lloyd, you can tell from his hand movement as he comforts her that the nature of the relationship has changed. Yes, this is what Fui mentioned earlier in the chat. So I'm really glad that Raph was able to pull the exact page from the animation book itself. Oh, and then Fui says, now it makes partial sense why Damien freaked out in 88 when she hugged him. Yes, that's something to point out too, because Anya started to see Damien as a close friend. That's why she hugged him. But for Damien, it's off-putting because the culture, just remember the culture, opposite sex or gender, they freak out from stuff like that. It's actually a cultural thing. So really glad that we have all this discussion here, and I think that's the end of it, of today's episode, I think. I'm gonna double check the record time. Yeah, we recorded for like a good 2 hours and 11 minutes. Moss, Anya, any last words?
No.
No.
Okay. So I guess that's the end of it. Any last words from anyone in the chat? Okay, so I see Leona said nope, Louis says nope, Emmy says nope. I want to I want to say thank you all to all of you guys in the chat today. Get well soon. Yeah, I was coughing a lot off the screen. Get well soon, and bye guys. Bye Fui. That being said, wherever you guys are in the world, we wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Stay hydrated, be safe. The weather is cruel. I'm like getting sicker, but also getting better. But yeah, watch your health, guys. Please take care of your health. Take care. And if you watch till the very end, thank you so much for watching episode 5 of the DWC. Yeah, the DWC. I said it right? TDWC, the Daily White Cipher. And we'll see you guys on episode 6. Right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.